Mark sat in the pilot's seat, eyes fixed on the red warning lights flashing across the screen. The ship was shaking hard, metal groaning under pressure. Sparks flew from the side panel, and the navigation system went dark. "This is not good." Mark whispered that he was alone. The small cargo shuttle had been hit by an unknown energy pulse during its jump. Now it was spinning out of control, heading toward a moon that wasn't even on the map. He tried to pull the emergency brakes, but nothing responded. The last thing he remembered before blacking out was the crash alarm, and the surface of the moon rising fast toward him. When Mark opened his eyes, everything was silent. The wreckage around him was broken, twisted, and smoking. He slowly sat up, checking his body. A few cuts, bruises, and a sore shoulder, but he was alive. "Anyone?" He called out, though he knew there was no one else on board. He grabbed a survival pack and stepped outside. The sky above was purple, glowing with strange stars and moving clouds. The air felt thick, but his suit's scanner showed it was breathable. The moon was dark, quiet, and strangely beautiful. But something felt wrong. It wasn't just lifeless. It felt ... watched. Mark walked for hours through rocky hills and broken terrain. He found no animals, no plants, only strange ruins buried in the ground. Stone pillars, broken doors, alien symbols. This place was once alive. Near sunset, temperature dropped fast. Mark needed shelter. That's when he saw a dark opening in the mountain wall. A cave? No, it was too perfect. The edges were smooth, like carved by tools. He entered slowly. Inside, soft lights flickered on by themselves, reacting to his presence. The hallway was wide and cold. The walls were made of black stone and glowing lines that pulsed faintly. It didn't look like human work. It looked ancient and alien. He should have left, but the wind outside howled, and strange noises echoed in the distance. Mark had no choice. He moved deeper. The hall opened into a large chamber with high ceilings and a glowing blue pool in the center. The air was warmer here. Mark dropped his bag and sat down near the edge. He dipped his hand in the water. It was clean. He drank, his throat dry from the long walk. Then, a sound, footsteps, slow, graceful, echoing through the hall. Mark stood quickly, eyes scanning the shadows. Who's there? From the far end of the room, a figure stepped into view. She was tall, over 7 feet. Her skin was silver blue, and her eyes glowed with soft violet light. Her body was shaped like a woman's, but not fully human. She wore flowing robes made of light material that shimmered as she walked. Mark stepped back. "What are you?" She stopped a few feet away. Her voice was calm but powerful. "I am the last queen of the Zarani. You walk in my palace, human." Mark couldn't speak. The queen looked at him for a long time, then spoke again. "You are not like the others. You are alone, and you are compatible." "Compatible?" Mark asked. She walked slowly around him, examining. "My people are. Gone, I remain. But I cannot remain forever. I need an heir, and your kind may be the last chance." Mark's heart pounded. "I didn't come here for this. I crashed." "I know," she said, "but fate brought you here. I offer you shelter, warmth, and purpose. In return, I ask for something only you can give." The chamber grew quiet. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, only her voice remained. Mark didn't know what to think. This was insane. A moon not on the map. A living alien queen. A request for something more than survival. But he also knew this. He was trapped. And this strange, powerful woman was the only other life on this entire moon. And she had plans for him. Mark stood frozen in the glowing chamber, staring at the alien queen. Her presence filled the room, calm, confident, and strangely peaceful. Yet behind her soft voice, there was a weight. Like centuries of waiting, he tried to find words. "Why me?" The queen tilted her head slightly. "Because your kind shares a bond with ours, deeper than you know. And you are not just a man. You are the last key." Mark's heart beat faster. "You're saying your people can't continue without help?" She nodded slowly. "The Zirani were once many, kings, queens, fleets that danced through the stars. But war and time ended us. I survived. And the ancient code says that only with an outsider's seed, our line may live again." He felt dizzy. "You're asking me to become a father? To become something more," she replied. "Not forced, not taken, but chosen." Mark stepped back, still trying to think straight. "What if I say no?" Her voice remained calm, but there was sorrow in it. "Then I give you safe shelter, food, a path to rest. And when your time ends, I will still be alone." Mark looked into her glowing eyes. They weren't cold or cruel. They were tired of centuries in silence. She turned and walked toward a raised platform at the side of the chamber. With a small motion of her hand, the floor shifted. A soft hum filled the air, and the room transformed. Metal plates pulled back. A garden of light bloomed around them. Trees with blue leaves shimmered. A stream trickled gently. Flowers opened under starlight from above. It was beautiful, living, alive. "This is the heart of my palace," she said. "A place untouched. For 1,000 years, it waited for you." Mark stepped forward slowly, staring at the impossible beauty. "Why now?" "Because the stars aligned," she said. "And because you were the only one brave or foolish enough to land here." He smiled weakly. "Not by choice." She let out a soft laugh. It surprised him. Perhaps that's why it worked. They sat by the stream. Silence followed, but it wasn't uncomfortable. The queen placed a glowing orb between them. "This holds the memories of my kind," she said. "If you wish, it will show you who we were and why this matters." Mark reached out and touched the orb. Instantly, visions filled his mind. Great cities floating in space, armies of warriors in golden armor, children flying with winged creatures, stars being born in ancient temples. And then war, fire, silence. He pulled back, breathing hard. "You lost everything," he whispered. The queen nodded. "Yes, and I have guarded what remains, alone." Mark looked at her again. This wasn't just about reproduction. It was about survival, about preserving something powerful and ancient. "I don't know what to do," he said honestly. "You don't need to know," she replied gently. "You only need to choose." He stood, unsure of himself, but strangely calm. "And if I choose yes?" She rose too. "Then we begin a bond, slowly, with understanding. No chains, no demands. Only trust." Mark took a step toward her. "I don't trust easily." "Neither do I," she said. Their eyes met again, alien and human, but not so different after all. That night, Mark stayed in a new chamber, clean, warm, filled with soft lights and music from unknown instruments. He couldn't sleep. Thoughts raced through his head. He had survived a crash, found a living alien queen, and now he might be the last hope for a forgotten race. Outside, the wind howled across the dark moon. But inside, something ancient had awakened, something more than duty, something that felt like fate. And deep beneath the palace, old systems began to stir. Lights blinked. Power hummed. The queen wasn't the only thing that had awakened. Something was watching. Something else had heard the humans' arrival. Asterisk. Mark awoke to soft light glowing from the walls. He was lying on a warm surface, not metal, not stone, but something soft, almost alive. The chamber smelled of strange flowers and fresh air. For a moment, he forgot he was stranded on a forgotten moon. But then he remembered the Queen and her offer. He sat up, rubbing his face. Last night felt like a dream. Her voice, her story, the glowing orb showing the fall of her people. But the ache in his muscles told him it was real. Mark stood and walked out of the room. The halls were quiet. The air was warm. Not a single sound except his footsteps. He found the Queen sitting by the stream again, surrounded by glowing flowers. She looked up. "You slept well," Mark nodded. "Better than I should." "Your body is healing," she said. "The palace responds to your presence now. It accepts you." "Your palace is alive?" he asked. "In some ways, it listens. It remembers." Mark sat across from her. He hesitated. "I've been thinking, what happens if I stay? What does it really mean?" The Queen looked at him calmly. "It means we survive. We learn from each other. I teach you our ways. You help me carry them forward. You are not a prisoner, Mark. You are free. But what if I choose to leave?" The Queen stood and raised her hand. A hidden wall slid open. Inside was a small chamber with ancient tech screens, control panels, and a small escape pod. Mark stepped inside slowly. "It was real. You had this all along?" he asked. "I told you," she said softly. "You are not a prisoner." Mark stared at the pod. He could leave. Fly back, send a signal to Earth, be rescued. But the look in the Queen's eyes stayed with him. She wasn't begging. She was waiting. "Why show me this now?" he asked. "Because only when someone has a choice can they truly give something," she said. "And if you choose to stay, then I know it's real." He looked at the pod again. Then he turned and walked away. Later, they sat in a long chamber, filled with starlight. The Queen spoke more about her people, the Zerani. They were not conquerors, she said. They were builders, thinkers, protectors of the stars. But then came war, betrayal, a machine race that consumed worlds. And when it ended, only she remained. "Why didn't you leave?" Mark asked. "I was made to stay," she said. "A queen cannot abandon her temple, not while life remains." Mark was silent. "Do you fear me?" she asked. He looked at her honestly. "At first, yes, but now, I think I fear being the last of something even more." The Queen's eyes softened. "And perhaps we are not so different." That night, Mark stood outside the palace, looking at the stars. They shimmered brighter here. The silence of the moon was heavy, but peaceful. And he heard it, a low rumble, like metal grinding deep underground. He turned. "Queen?" She appeared beside him quickly. "You heard it too." "What is it?" he asked. She didn't answer. Her eyes narrowed. "The palace is stirring in places it should not. Something has changed." Mark felt a chill. "Something woke up?" "Yes," she whispered. "And I do not believe it came for peace." In the lowest chamber of the palace, hidden doors slid open. Dust rose into the air. A long-forgotten machine came online, red eyes flickering. It had waited for centuries, for movement, for sound, for a human. Now it had what it needed, and it began to rise. Asterisk. The Queen stood beside Mark at the palace gates, her silver-blue skin glowing faintly under the purple sky. Her calm expression had changed. She was alert now, listening, thinking. Something old has awakened, she whispered. Mark's voice was tense. "Can it hurt us?" "I do not know," she said. "But this place, it remembers all who enter, and not all memories are kind." They returned inside, walking down silent halls. The palace lights flickered strangely, reacting to something. Unseen, in one chamber, a mirror cracked without warning. In another, warm air turned suddenly cold. Mark placed his hand on a wall. It feels like the whole place is breathing faster. The queen nodded slowly. The palace responds to the mood of its ruler, and now it senses danger. Mark looked at her. You seem different too. She paused. I haven't had company in many years, and I've never had hope. Later that day, they sat together in the star garden. Tiny glowing orbs floated gently above them like fireflies, and flowers opened as they walked past. The queen showed Mark a crystal tree that hummed softly when touched. He smiled for the first time since the crash. It's beautiful here, he said. She looked at him. Even in its silence, this world has life. You make it stronger. Mark sat on a stone bench. I used to think aliens would be cold, metal, machines, but you laugh, you feel. I was born for duty, she said, sitting beside him. But inside me, there is more than command. There is heart. They sat in silence, watching the stars move across the glass dome above. Mark turned to her. Why? Me? There must be others who could have landed here. There were others, she said quietly. But the palace chose you. It scanned your ship as it entered orbit. It recognized something in you. Like what? She didn't answer, right? Away. Then she said, the same thing I saw, kindness and pain. Mark looked down. He had lost his family in the last war. His ship assignment was meant to keep him busy, away from the memories. Now, fate had dropped him here with a queen as lost as he was. He looked at her again. You've been alone for a long time, she nodded. Too long. Are you still? Sure this is about bloodlines? He asked. She met his gaze. It was, but now, I'm not so sure. That night, a storm rolled across the moon's surface. Purple lightning cracked the sky, and winds howled through the cliffs. Mark couldn't sleep. He walked the halls until he reached the queen's chamber. She stood by the window, her robe flowing behind her, her expression thoughtful. You couldn't sleep either? He asked. She shook her head. The palace stirs. Something is climbing from the old vaults. He stepped closer. Do you know what it is? She looked at him with sadness. Before the war ended, my people created guardians. Machines built to protect our temples when we were gone. But time can twist even loyal things, Mark swallowed. If it sees me as a threat, it may not understand peace anymore. Just then, the floor trembled. Far below, in the forgotten halls beneath the palace. Metal moved. In the next hour, the queen led Mark through deeper parts of the palace. They reached a locked chamber lined with ancient armor and strange weapons. She handed him a small black device. What is it? He asked. A shield. It will protect you for a short time. Mark stared at it. I didn't think I'd need a weapon here. She stepped close. I hope you don't, but if I fail, this place must not take you. He looked into her eyes. I'm not leaving without you. The queen paused, then placed her hand on his chest. Then we walked this path together. Above them, the stars shifted. Below them, the old machine's eyes lit fully red and alive. It had detected the outsider, and its ancient code returned. Eliminate the intruder. Protect the royal bloodline. And it began to rise. Asterisk. The ground trembled again. Mark, and the queen stood in the lower hall, lit by shifting lights from the ancient crystal ceiling. The palace groaned like it was in pain. Deep below them, metal scraped against stone. It's close now, the queen said quietly. The guardian is awake. Mark gripped the small black shield device she gave him. His hand trembled. I thought this was a palace, he whispered, not a war zone. It was both, she replied. A place of peace, guarded by violence The queen walked toward a narrow door, carved with ancient symbols. She placed her palm on the surface. It scanned her, then opened with a hiss. Inside was a chamber of memory. Floating lights surrounded a platform. On it, glowing images flickered, moving pictures of past queens. Warriors, lovers, children, all lost. This is our legacy. The queen said, stepping forward, "Everything I am, everything I was meant to carry forward." Mark watched the holograms. In them, the queen stood with others of her kind. She was younger, smiling, alive with purpose. Now only she remained. She turned to Mark. "If I die, it ends here. But if you stay, you can help carry it on." He stepped closer. "You keep saying stay, but what if I'm not enough? What if I fail you?" She touched his arm gently. "Then we fail together." Mark's eyes dropped. "I found an escape pod. I could leave. I could go back." The queen nodded slowly. "Yes, you could go back to a world that left you drifting, or you could stay and give this one a future." He looked into her eyes, those glowing violet eyes filled with loss, with hope, with strength. He spoke softly. "You told me this. Place responds to emotion, to energy. So if I stay, I change this place? You awaken more than walls," she whispered. "You awaken the stars inside it." Mark turned, walking slowly toward the exit. She didn't stop him at the hallway. He paused, looked back. She stood alone, framed in light, as if already part of history. Mark took a deep breath and came back. Moments later, alarms rang through. The palace. Lights flickered red. The Guardian had reached the central halls. Its body was huge, six-legged, built of ancient metal, glowing veins of blue energy running through it. Its head looked like a helmet carved from stone and fire. Intruder detected. It spoke in a voice of thunder. Mark stepped in front of the queen, raising the small shield. "I'm not your enemy." The Guardian scanned him. "Non-Zerani. Unauthorized genetic code." "Wait!" the queen shouted. "He has been accepted by the throne." The Guardian paused. Its eyes pulsed. Conflicting royal signals. Suddenly, it charged. Mark activated the shield. A glowing dome surrounded him and the queen as the Guardian slammed into it. The force shook the palace. The queen raised her hands. Blue energy flowed from her fingers, striking the Guardian's legs. It staggered, sparks flying from its joints. "I can't hold it forever," she cried. Mark looked around. His eyes found the crystal platform behind them, the one storing her people's memory. "If I link this to the Guardian, can it learn?" She stared. "Maybe, but it could overload. Then we take the risk." Mark ran to the console, ripping open a glowing panel. The shield flickered as the Guardian raised one arm to strike again. He shoved the memory crystal into the port and shouted, "Now!" Blue light burst through the room. The Guardian screamed. Its voice mixed with echoes of the past. Then it stopped moving. Silence fell. Smoke rose from its back. Its red eyes dimmed. The queen lowered her hands slowly. Her body trembled, but she stayed standing. Mark stepped beside her, out of breath. "Did it work?" She nodded. Double quotes, "The Guardian remembers now." Later, they stood in the same memory chamber. The queen faced him quietly. "You could have run. You didn't." Mark looked at her. "You trusted me. I chose to trust you back." She took a breath. "Then, do you accept this path? Not just as a survivor, but as my equal?" Mark stepped forward. "I do." The palace was calm. For the first time in centuries, its halls no longer echoed with silence or tension. Instead, the lights were brighter, the air warmer. The walls no longer wept memories. They whispered of change. Mark stood on the balcony, above the star garden, watching blue flowers bloom across the open floor. Beside him stood the queen, not just a ruler now, but something more. Her robes shimmered with new life, her eyes soft, but filled with purpose. "The guardian has returned to rest," she said. "And with it, the palace has accepted our union." Mark smiled. "Then we're really not alone anymore." She turned to him. "You've changed this world more than I thought possible." He looked around the palace. Where once he saw stone and glass, now he saw a home. "What happens now?" he asked. The queen gestured toward the center of the garden. Floating above a crystal stand was a single glowing orb brighter than the others. It pulsed with warmth. "A message," she said. "Not for war, not for surrender, a call of peace and rebirth." In the days that followed, the palace came alive. Mark and the queen walked together through long-lost wings, unlocking doors that had remained sealed since the fall of her people. They discovered chambers filled with seeds, stasis pods, and forgotten artifacts, tools meant to restore life once a future had been found. And now, that future had a name. Mark together. They reactivated the signal tower buried deep in the Mai. Moon's crust. The queen's voice echoed across the stars, not in command, but in hope. "To those who remember us, we live. To those who never knew us, we welcome you. And to Earth, we have something to share." She turned to Mark. "If they come, they may fear us, or fear what we've become." Mark shook his head. "Not if they hear the truth. And I'll make sure they do." Weeks later, as twin moons rose over the palace towers, a faint light flickered in the sky. Mark stared through a long-range lens. "It's not a star. It's moving." The queen joined him. "A ship?" "Yes, human design, Earth's colors." She smiled. "Then your people heard us." He nodded, but his voice was quiet. "Do you think they'll understand?" "That depends on you," she said. Mark watched the stars for a moment longer, then turned to face her. "Then let me be the bridge." The Earth ship landed gently near the ruins outside the palace gates. A small team stepped out, their armor shining, weapons lowered but ready. They expected ruins. They expected wreckage. Instead, they saw a man one, of their own standing beside a tall alien queen who radiated strength, grace, and life. Mark raised his hand in greeting. "I'm alive, and I've got something to show you." The team didn't raise their weapons. They listened. Weeks turned into months. The once-lost palace became a place of learning, exchange, and rebuilding. Scientists came. Diplomats followed. But none of them could explain how one crashed man had changed an entire empire. Only Mark and the queen truly knew. In the heart of the palace, a new chamber was built, half Earth tech, half Zerani crystal. And inside it was a cradle, not of war, but of legacy. A new heir, born of two worlds. Mark stood beside the queen, holding a child wrapped in silver-blue cloth. He looked down at the small face and whispered, "You were never supposed to exist, but now the galaxy will never be the same because you do." Above the palace, the stars continued to shine, silent, eternal. But now they were not watching a tomb. They were watching a beginning. Asterisk.